What was the lesson you were to learn about trust?
That you could not trust anyone. You shouldn't trust anyone. And that included your father. I remember times when he'd be pushing me on the swing, and I'd say, "Dad, I don't want to go. It's scary if you go too hard." And he just started pushing me, so where the swing would get slack, and then would come down on itself. And I caught my arm in the chain and scraped up my arm, and bruised my arm, and I was crying. And I said, "Why?" And I was crying, and he just said, "I've told you, just don't trust people like that."
Did sports become an important part of your life?
Well, they were everything to my dad, and that was my whole life at that time.
Was doing what your father wanted of you important?
That's what made him happy, and that's what I wanted to do. He was rough with the swimming.
What do you mean he was rough with the swimming?
Sometimes he would just yank me out of the water by my hair, and we practiced with him holding me under the water, how long I could take it. We would go under, and I would fight him to get air, and then he would give me air. And we would keep doing that, and I would be able to do it less and less time. It was very rough, and I just was so nervous about swimming. It wasn't just my dad either, just the practices themselves made me very nervous. Mostly I remember pleading with my mother not to take me, stalling so I would be late, incredible stomach aches, I think from nerves, where I would be nauseous, and I would vomit.
What would your mom say when you'd ask her to not make you go?
She would just say, "Get ready, let's go," and she would always threaten me with telling my dad. It made me so nauseous and nervous. The drilling, the intensity, the underwater stuff was very hard for me. I remember purposely swimming into the wall in practice so that I would be injured, so that the coach would say, "Okay, you can sit in the locker room and miss the afternoon sessions." I would do all kinds of things anything to get out of it. No, my dad was there whenever I played soccer. He would be very involved, and the coaches would allow that. Pretty much it would be like a private lesson with him, and then the team was playing also. He would be yelling things from the sidelines. Sometimes he would come out and grab me and take me off the field and talk to me, put me back in. The coaches would pretty much ignore him. They basically just let my dad do what he wanted to do.
Did you get to be friends with the other kids on the team?
No, not really. If I started becoming friendly with these other players, I wouldn't be competitive.
If your team lost, would they all get together and go to the pizza parlor afterwards, even though they lost?
They would.
Did
often.
you get to go?
No. The idea that there would be smiles on kids' faces after they lost the game was really, it's just outrageous to them. And if I even went near anybody, or I had to look, and would purposely look pretty devastated after matches. What I tell you about having friends. And then he'd say, "Let's go over it." And that's when we put our heads together. And that's when I would repeat to him, I have to constantly struggle because there are forces that tear me down, and sometimes they be disguised in the form of a smile or the hand of a friend. He would repeat it, then I would repeat it, and he would repeat it, and then I would repeat it, and he would say, "Good."
What was the instruction with regard to food? Were you told what you could eat?
Yes.
Were you told when you could eat it?
There were some meals he felt it depended on what was happening that day. If there was a practice, it would be 3 hours before. He wouldn't tolerate 2.5 hours, it would be 3. And then there would be certain foods involved. It depended on what he was reading, whatever was in the literature. If it was the Eat to Win diet, if it was something else. Usually he had books that would list what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then like strategies for how early But he changed his philosophy a lot. As I remember him reading about Pancho Gonzalez would fast during the tournament. And so I did that for a period of time where I would just not eat for 12 hours at a time, have a small meal, not eat all day again. That wasn't working very well, so we switched.
How old were you when you were doing the Pancho Gonzalez fasting program?
13.
How many hours a day were you playing tennis?
At 13?
Yeah.
Probably like 40, 45 hours a week.
40 to 45 hours a week? And this is when you're 13 and you're going to school also? Yes?
Yes. Basically, he sneaked me in a bag some pastries and cookies and stuff. He just sort of put it in with everything else my dad was buying, and I took it out when my dad wasn't looking.
Did your dad find him?
He found them on me outside the store.
Were you eating them?
I was eating them. Yes.
And what did your dad do?
He just grabbed them out of my hand, and he just grabbed me by the neck, and he just punched me in the stomach.
Did you feel like there was a lot of pressure to live up to your dad's expectations?
Tremendous pressure.
Did you think you could ever meet his expectations?
No. And I don't think he felt I could either. Well, whenever my dad was around, it was very heavy pressure, and I preferred to be just with the coach.
At one point, were you the #1 player in the Middle States Tennis Association?
Yes.
Now, what is the Middle States Tennis Association? What area does that cover?
That's the 5 states, most of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Delaware. He was proud of me, but by the time I could get to be #1, I mean, we were thinking nationally, and nationally I was not where he wanted me to be. So we didn't really worry about like the 5 states thing.
So this wasn't a great moment for you then, I mean, making the #1 ranking in the Middle States Tennis Association.
He really didn't say much about it. It just happened. The rankings came up. I noticed I was #1, but again, we were thinking nationally. It was like, so what? And sometimes I would get a lot of answers wrong, and he would just sort of start tensing up. He'd just reach out and he'd grab you. And usually with me, he'd open the sliding glass window and he'd just throw me outside.
How long would you stay outside?
A few hours.
This happened only in the summertime?
No. I remember the winter times most.
Because
then I would go into the nice doghouse they made. It had the wood chips in it and it was warm, and I'd hang out in there. My life was structured with little goals, and he would say that we need to set short-term goals, and some of these were like to fix the flaws that I seem to have with walking.
What was wrong with the way you walked?
Just with the feet outward.
How else did he deal with this flaw of yours?
Made fun of all anything like that. He made fun of in our family. The walking, he would walk behind me and make quacking noises and say I walk like a duck, and get Eric to make quacking noises.
Would this be done on a public street?
Yes.
With people around?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did that embarrass you?
Yes.
What other flaws did he set as goals to be corrected?
Speech. I didn't enunciate properly. That's what he said countless times. And I also sometimes stuttered because I just couldn't respond because I'd be so tense.
And what would he say when you stuttered?
To make fun of it, he'd just stutter back. Sometimes he would send me in a room and say, come back when I can talk. Sometimes he would just stutter. Sometimes he would just wait, and I would just keep trying, keep trying to get the words out. And he knew what I wanted to say. And he just let me go on. Just in some talks with my dad, I just was like crumbling. I just couldn't get the words out.
What did you do to try and avoid stuttering?
I really didn't talk much around my dad, only if I was asked.
What other flaws were set as goals to be corrected?
The talking to other kids was a big problem, continual problem. With me, it was mostly a tendency to cry or look sad.
And what would he tell you about that?
That I have to master my emotions. He had a strong reaction to tears.
Do you have any problem with bedwetting?
Yes.
Until how old?
14. He'd just be totally disgusted. Didn't want to talk to me. Sometimes we'd skip practices if my mom had said that I wet my bed, and he didn't want anything to do with me. Sometimes it would just upset him so much he would explode, and I would get beaten for it.
Did you think you were ever going to be as good as he was?
No.
Did you think you were ever going to be good enough to please him?
No, I didn't.
Was it important to you to please him?
Yes. I had sprained my ankle, and so I had an ankle problem still, and I was playing with it. And so I just wasn't running as fast, and my dad was ridiculing me and pushing me and saying, you know, what a baby. Look, Brad, he can't run fast. Look at him. Look at him, oh, poor baby. Can't play tennis. Can't run. His ankle hurts. He was doing that over and over and over. And then finally I was so embarrassed, and I just couldn't take it anymore, and I lost control, and I told my dad, why don't you just shut up? And he led me over to the back of the car. As soon as I got in the back of the car, he just punched me straight in the face, and I went back against the window, and he grabbed my neck. He said, don't ever embarrass me like that again, or I'll kill you. He tightened his grip on my neck, and he says, is that perfectly clear? And I said, yes.
Did you apply to University of Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Were you accepted?
Yes.
Did you tell your father you wanted to go there to school?
Yes.
And yet you ended up at Princeton.
Right.
Left to make your own selection, where would you have gone to school?
University of Pennsylvania.
And after you found out, after she told you that she might be pregnant, did the relationship end shortly after that?
Yes.
And did your father tell you he had done something in relationship to that relationship?
Yes.
And what was that?
He had approached her, and he said he had approached her and paid her and basically intimidated her into getting an abortion. If I feel depressed, I will be master of my emotions. Today I will be master of my emotions. If I feel depressed, I will sing. If I feel sad, I will laugh. If I feel ill, I will double my labor. If I feel fear, I will plunge ahead. If I feel inferior, I will wear new garments. If I feel poverty, I will think of wealth to come. If I feel insignificant, I will remember my goals. I will be master of my emotions. And this is the same part of the book that the paragraph about friends is in.
Why was mastering your emotions important?
It was really crucial to Dad, and a great sign of weakness to display emotion, happy or sad. As there's another passage I don't remember as well about being too happy, too confident, too pleased with yourself, and to remember your failures and things of that sort. So neither one. Somebody just unemotional that you couldn't read, especially with regards to me, who seemed to have a problem with nerves, fear, inability to. Another line I forgot is, if I feel uncertain, I will raise my voice. And that's a problem I had, speech problems, things of that sort. They were very important for me. If I could master these things, I could reach my goals.
You had a rabbit that you brought home from school?
Yes. Mom said that my dad wanted me to get rid of the rabbit.
Sometime later, did something happen to the rabbit?
Yes.
How much? later after you were told to get rid of the rabbit?
A couple days, I was basically hoping that they would change their mind with the rabbit. Then I noticed it was missing, and I went into my dad. I thought he let it go, and he told me that I was supposed to get rid of it, and that it was in the garbage.
Did you go check the garbage?
Yes.
What did you find?
He had beaten it to death, and it was just laying on top of the garbage, and there were flies. So I took it off, and we found one of those shoe boxes for it, and put it in the shoe box. And got my brother, and we went out back to where we played with the army men, and I brought all my stuffed animals with me, and we buried it.